we walk with a God who desires to walk with us in our everyday life and answers some of the problems that we have through his scriptures. And so I got my boy Chad with me today, just to talk with us and talk through his journey on the fitness side and the faith side. Chad, you want to say something to the people?
What's going on, everybody? Chad Wilson here. Thankful to be here. I'm just, glad that God gave us this vehicle to, use for, everyone else.
Cool. Love it, man. So with that being said, just wanted to give you a lane, Chad, to just talk through, hey, what is it that you do on a regular that corresponds to fitness? Because this podcast is mainly around faith and fitness and how they intertwine, and actually what the scriptures say about it too. So just tell the folks real briefly what you do on a regular.
So for me, I like to kind of lead by example. I got 4 boys ranging from a year old all the way to 12. Mm-hmm. And, I know just like our ministry starts at home, yep. I like to pretty much run that parallel with my health.
Yep.
Living it out loud and showing them what it is to be intentional, with our bodies, mm-hmm. our mind, and our spiritual life is important to us because it's our legacy.
That makes sense.
And we want to live that out in front of them, show them the workouts that I'm doing at home. Mm-hmm. I go to the gym, but I'm a busy dad of 4.
Yeah, you are.
And I run my own business. So there's days every week I'm working out at home a couple of days because of the schedule. Mm-hmm. So when it's chest day, they get on my back and I do push-ups.
Hey.
And then they get down and do push-ups. And they're just mimicking, right? Even from our 12-month-old.
Yep.
He's mimicking facial expressions and just body language.
Yep.
I want our kids to mimic a healthy relationship with food and our bodies as we grow up and, depart from our house.
Yep. No, man, you hitting it right on the T. Is you are showing both in your business, and you can go in as much detail as you want with that. It's just free reign there, as well as in your family life, what it looks like to prioritize your personal health and really even what you put into your body. And I think sometimes that's what's forgotten when it comes to our spiritual walk is, man, what we put in our body is important because we can't really serve well if we are also not taking care of ourselves first. Kind of like what they say in the airplanes. Hey, if the airbags deploy, or the oxygen mask deploy, sorry about that, put your oxygen mask on yourself and then put it on your child, because there's a good chance if you don't, you're going to pass out by the time you get it to your kid.
That's deep. I mean, think about it too. Like, I look at this as, in our church, right? We love God, we love people, make disciples. Mm-hmm. And we have a strategy for making disciples called G3.
Yep.
And like for me, I look at it, and this is my flesh speaking, so forgive me, but sometimes I'm like, I got to take care of me, mm-hmm. so I can actually disciple. Sure. And that means I need to be walking the walk, carrying my cross daily. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of selfish, but I need to look the part. Like, I need to be confident. I need to be smiling. I need to be joyful. And you can get that with the way you fuel your body, And even in our business, I'm a certified independent Optavia coach. And we have 4 components in our program, and one of those is community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we believe in community just like the church. The church isn't just the building, it's the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing in our health. When we can get around like-minded people, we just prosper. Like we get it. We struggle. We have mentors. We have people that are just one step further down the path than they are. And, when we can fuel that body, we can work on our mindset, our stress, sleep patterns. You can fuel your purpose and mission in life. And that literally just ripples, man. It impacts your personal relationships, your career. Yep. You show up differently at work. You get the opportunity, you get a calling from God to go serve. You don't have to feel so insecure about being on the stage, being prayed over by the church, or maybe even them snapping some shots while you're serving, just to inspire other people that, hey, they can do it too.
Yep.
And I think when we can fuel, That's what I
My
think
bad.
about being abundant, man, and just sharing with people. When God's working on you and you got that gut feeling that says, hey, you need to go witness to this man or this woman,
Yep.
you go do it. And it's the same thing with our health, man. We have to call each other out in our brotherhood of Christ and say, hey, that wasn't, that wasn't biblically right. Let's work on this as a man. We need to be
Hmm.
bold enough to say that to our friends and family when it comes to their health.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're speaking to, sometimes we do people a disservice when we aren't honest enough with them. And not necessarily health, just coming from a space of like trying to fat shame someone. Really, when it comes to the way I look at
Mm,
health, and you tell me if I'm off base, it is, hey man, I want you to be able to progress forward with your health so that you actually live a long life. When it comes to obesity, when it comes to sleep deprivation, all of these things cause different forms of high blood pressure. They can cause different forms of hypertension and stress, and so for a person trying to live past 50 or 60 and a person who's ministering to a lot of people, like if you aren't prioritizing your health, your body tends to talk back to you. And I think even scripturally there's something there where Paul says, I think it's in First Corinthians, where he says, hey, do you not know that you are God's temple and God's spirit dwells within you? Now when Paul's talking about it, he's of course talking through, hey, not allowing the temple of God to be joined to the world. He literally goes later and says, hey, so then will you join your body to a prostitute? And he's like,
mm,
no. But he does put a priority on utilizing this body that you've been given for the kingdom. And when you don't take care of it, you can't utilize it well, right? And if you can't utilize it well or you function on fumes, you are more likely to get caught up in some type of sin, whether it be blatant, like some type of moral failure, or some type of issues with maybe just blowing up and getting angry at people on a regular basis and using some type of profanity, right? But it might just be simple as, man, people can't trust you to keep your word because you don't show up on time because you're tapped out.
mm.
I think there's a spectrum of different things in which, because our bodies are tapped out, in which we tend to, because we aren't prioritizing our physical health, in which now you find yourself, hey, not being able to serve those that you've been called to serve, whether you're on the pulpit, whether it's at work and you're not doing your due diligence and shining the light of God with working in excellence, like whatever that may
Mm.
be, or just being a father, because the ministry starts at home first, right? And if you got small kids and you winded because you can't keep up with them, and that's no shade at anyone, like once again, not a fat shaming thing, but just an honesty thing, like then you're technically doing a disservice to your kid, right? And it's one thing if you have like what is the word I'm looking like, hereditary issues that just running your family, whether you're in perfect health or not. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But if
And I got a piece on that too, by the way.
you do, I want to hear. But if we're talking about just a issue with poor eating and poor, physical health, which is as simple as getting in 30 minutes of walking every day. It can be that simple. I would assume, Chad, you tell me if I'm off base, right? If you're not prioritizing that, then man, you really aren't trying to prioritize living a long life with what's in your control. But well, what you got, Chad? What you thinking?
Well, even going to that, I mean, you walk 20, 30 minutes a day, that's going to decrease your chances of like cardiovascular disease
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, upwards of like 50+%.
Mm-hmm.
But what if that's also God getting you alone for a minute?
Yep. Get it. Yep.
Because something that I've been learning and God's been speaking to me through our life group,
Mm-hmm.
our small group at church, for those that don't know the term life group,
Mm-hmm.
um, God will get you alone if he needs to speak to you.
That's it. That's it.
And when you treat your body the way a lot of people in America is doing it, in the sense of food industry,
Mm-hmm.
food addiction,
Mm-hmm.
not really caring about their bodies, you're going to get alone because you're not going to have no confidence to go out your house and feel guilty when people look at you. And that's just what I hear in the way we serve, our clients.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard it said like this one time, we're in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
There is too many resources out there for you to be obese.
Mm-hmm.
There's just too many. And it being hereditary, now there's some legit medical, like hereditary disease, things like that.
And that's
But
where
we
I would
hear
say
all the time,
hereditary
it's
disease
hereditary.
is different than
But is it hereditary?
yeah.
Or are you just doing the same thing your parents did and you're just replicating?
That's fair. You still eating them neck bones and ham hocks, and I love a good neck bone. You know.
Dude, I grew up on fast food and TV dinners, man. That's how I grew up.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I had bad health now, it wouldn't be hereditary. It would be I mimicked the habits
Mm-hmm.
that my parents put on display for me.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And I think you spoke to that really well as well. And even from a spiritual standpoint, it's great if we teach our children spiritual disciplines and disciple them from the word, but it's also just as important to teach them physical disciplines, right? Because if we think they don't intertwine, they do. A lot of the eating issues that we may see that may lead to some levels of obesity may just simply start because you're an emotional eater and you aren't constantly allowing the Lord in when you're stressed. First, you go into food, right? And I'm even a culprit of that. I've done it plenty of times, right? And yeah, to a degree, the industry doesn't make it easier for us to buy healthy foods or organic, really healthy foods on a regular basis. But
Right.
you if it's important to you, you find ways to do it, right? So there's always like
100%.
tension. And so another thing too is the industry, and you tell me if I'm off base, Chad, will make it seem as though, hey, if you're not, a size 2 and at 10% body fat, then you're obese. I don't know if that's really a healthy goal, but at the same time frame, if we are as people trying to be sure the same way we honor our spiritual disciplines and stay in the word, we honor just very simple physical disciplines, which they got a lot to do with where our spirit and our heart is, right? And just simply make time to do something as simple as walking every day or as simple as getting 8 hours of sleep, because we haven't even really got on that yet, right?
Sure.
Hey, then you'll find you're able to serve those and work in your career platforms of excellence because you're actually like prioritizing the right things, if that makes sense. But
it's all a balance.
Mm-hmm. And that's the word.
It's all a balance,
Yeah.
Of course, I would love to get 8 hours of sleep a night, but sometimes that's not practical with life, kids, and it's just a journey, though, right? Like no one's Christian walk is perfect.
No.
And I think that's where people sometimes feel like they can't do it, is because they're comparing themselves to the man on the stage preaching the word.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not what you can do, it's what you can duplicate. So not just because the preacher is so well versed in scripture, theology, and their own walk, a lot of people feel like there's a huge gap between where they're at and their spiritual walk. And this works in your health too. We got people say all the time, Chad, I can't do what you do. Good, you're not supposed to.
Yep, you ain't supposed to come out here and be killing 80 push-ups in 2 minutes, and you ain't been working out in 3 years. You know what I mean?
Exactly, but there's a bridge, and we got to close that gap on the bridge. And that's where that thought, that theory, it's not what you do, or it's not what you can do, it's what you can duplicate, comes in. Even with our program, we got simple goof-proof nutrition to make it easy for you to get into a routine and structure, and you transition off. But you got the habits of health, you got the community and the coach. That's a table with 4 legs. You remove one, it's going to get a little wobbly. You remove the second one, the table's going to start tipping over.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's the same thing with discipling. You got to be, loving God. You got to be in the Word. You got to be in the community of like-minded people who are following Jesus and surrendering and abiding, right, in His commandments now. But there's a balance in that. In layman's terms, you just got to do your best every day. But it doesn't mean that your best is 100% that day.
I'm dragging. Yeah, no, that's it, though. And I think that's the same way space it is from a spiritual standpoint. Is it's not about having the a perfect prayer life or memorizing every scripture in the book. It's about building our spiritual walk the same way we build a relationship with a friend, by spending time with the Lord on a regular basis. Our relationship with Him grows stronger the more we spend time with Him. Your relationship in the gym and your ability to do different things that you may have couldn't done when you started is based on how often you are committing consistently in the gym and just simply pushing through the hard workout days, right? And I think sometimes we try to correlate or separate so quickly our physical and our spiritual health, but I think they go hand in hand a lot more than what we think. Because most people who go to the gym, they got headphones in, right? Which means you're getting the headphones in to get your mind ready to go to knock this workout out. And for the person who forgot their headphones, their workout is that much slower, if they're honest. They pushing themselves. They might be depending on Planet Fitness, and shout out to y'all, but not really, because I ain't doing no endorsements yet, right? They might be depending on that gym, just whatever they got going in the background. But it is very simply put, like, it's different when you have your own music in your ears, right? Which means I even feel like from a spiritual standpoint, you are trying to get your mind, your mental state, and maybe even your heart around giving that workout the best workout you can, right? And so one of the questions we had in here that I'd love to get your take on is, and then I kind of jump in there too, is do you think there's a way for us to build our physical bodies and our spirit man in a way that honors God? Just being in the field that you're in.
I mean, so, I would say that if you can serve others in the community of like-minded people, right, that just like we have a preacher that can give us the word, if you have an accountability partner, you can set goals, you can have achievements, and you can build up your body in the sense of getting healthy, getting confidence, feeling good, and then stepping out your front door. And obviously with prayer and giving yourself some grace, if we're honest, you can go out there and live a abundant life and spread the gospel and not have any holdbacks on the way you feel, because you've fueled your body. You're fueling your spirit through the word, through prayer, through the community of like-minded people. So I think if you can run them parallel together, you can be more successful. You can get further down the path of your own personal health, but also to your personal relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like too, because there was a guy that I went to school with, and it really helped me. He's a pastor in Hardyville, South Carolina, and so this guy just always had a bunch of energy, right? And so he basically was the equivalence of a cross-country runner mixed with a CrossFit guy. And what I saw him be able to do after a period of time, because, he obviously was a pastor by trade, was be able to use that platform to actually help members of his church that were just struggling with their physical health. Like one guy who was pretty overweight, love him, his brother in Christ. He actually helped him over a period of time just from doing cardio and some brief HIIT workouts, right? He helped him lose up to like 150 pounds because at the time frame he had some conditions, and there was some concerns. It might have been 150, 120 pounds, and there was some concerns just with how long, he would be able to maintain just daily motion. And so we got to see his journey, but also see the light that was in him, just from the standpoint of him being confident in who God had made him. You may have not been able to tell fully how much he lost if you hadn't known him before, but if you were there as a member of that church before that standpoint, and then there as a member of that church after that standpoint, you got to see how this man began to just love on his family even more, because he probably had the energy to, you know. But then two, he could see, man, if the Lord can use me in this scenario when it comes to my physical health and serving my local church, and the Lord can use anyone. And actually, I think inspired a few more folks to even serve. And I think there's always a tension. It's like if, and that's the part of our last question, we'll get ready to bounce, is if we are trying to work on our physical health just so that we can get the approval or get the eyes of others on us, like almost in a vain standpoint. Yeah, the scriptures speak to that really, really well. Hey, you can focus on your physical health, but eventually everything withers away. But if we can think of our physical health as, hey, man, I want to be able to serve the local church, or if the Lord calls me to missions, or if the Lord calls me to do outreach that requires a lot of physical labor or walking between house to house, like I can do it with ease. Then you get to see, like I love going to Brazil. I saw there's a guy at our church. He just transitioned out and moved. His name's Keith Jefferson. I got to see him walking with us with some physical concerns going on with his health through multiple airports and through the towns of Brazil, helping us with a sports camp. And this man has to be probably at least mid-60s, maybe getting closer to late 60s, 70s. And other than just the Brazilian heat, he knocked it out the park with ease, right? But I got to see a guy who's been able to do this for a long period of time and end well because his intentions were pure when it came to his physical health. Not just, I just want to look good for look good's sake, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I can speak on behalf of that, man, because, like, you know, I'm dating myself. You know, I'm 37. I graduated high school in 2005.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, I had a girlfriend at the time, and I remember walking at our local mall and her looking at these two dudes, and they were big. They had to be like some like college athletes or something. And I was a twig. Let me tell you, I was a stick.
Yeah.
And something happened to me that day, and I was like, you know what? I want people to look at me like that. And obviously, that's not Christ-like. And this was, you know, 2005 now. Come on, it's 2024.
We got you.
and this is just part of my testimony. That's why I love sharing it, because it's real. But that led me into a really strict diet and routine of exercising, getting in the mindset of, you know what? I don't need education. I'm going to go to New York and become a model. Well, come on now. Models are what? They are super vain. They're all about themselves. They don't care about nothing. They just want all the flashy stuff.
Yep.
I got a very small glimpse into that. And I'm thankful that God didn't open that door for me, because I don't know where I'd be today. But that's like the foundation that I built on getting into being healthy. So I still battle with that daily now, you know, because sometimes I want to show it off.
I get it.
and I mean, why not, right? I work hard for it. I do all these things, but I have to ask myself, and this is a constant, a daily thing, is it, or how is it going to honor God?
That's it.
And as a father, you know, a husband, a Christ follower, you know, I'm learning, I'm getting better, I'm getting more Christ-like. But I also want to just, you know, not impress people, but express to people like what is legitimately possible for your life if you just take control and become the dominant force in your life. Like, you become the healthiest version of you, but in doing so, you honor God through it. And meaning, you give all the secrets away. You tell people how you did it. You know, you share the tricks and the things that helped you. And it's only going to help others and help influence them to get healthy, which again, we know this through this whole podcast, is you are going to have a ripple effect.
That's it.
And if you're shining Jesus' light through this journey, Jesus wins. I mean, we already know he wins.
Either way. Yep.
But, you know, we had this immediate gratification that, you know, our flesh is so desiring that we don't see the long, like the delayed gratification. Like, we want stuff now. That's why People have food addictions. They want the simple and the quick,
Yep.
but they don't realize that if you just take it one day at a time, invest in your health, slowly eat better, it's going to cost a bit more, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be less 2-hour doctor visits.
That's it.
There's going to be less copays for medicine, because food is the ultimate medicine. I wrote this verse down, and from Proverbs 17:22, a joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yo,
and
I love it.
If we can feed our body the good medicine that God gave us, the fruits, the veggies, the protein, then we literally can show up different, and our bodies can operate the way God intended it to.
Yep.
And we can literally follow Jesus down the path and share his grace, share his words, share our testimonies, and bring people on for the ride.
That's it. That's it. Oh, man, you speaking to it. I think the way I've looked at it now is the danger of trying to develop our physical bodies for our glory is, simply put, it's always going to cap somewhere, right? For some of our physical bodies, it will only look as fit as our bodies allow, especially if we're talking about not adding anything else to it, you know. But then, two, it's the same as a person who is chasing after wealth. You're never satisfied, right? And that's where we get into the spaces where you find people with body dysmorphia, where you have people with eating disorders, where they're not really on the gluttonous side, they're on the other side, right? Because they're never seeing themselves how God sees them. But if we can first see ourselves how God sees us spiritually and whole, as he created us, right? We're then able to prioritize our physical health for some very simple reasons to bring him glory, to be able to do the work that he's asked us to do on a regular, whether that's with our families, whether that's in a ministry team, whether that's in our job and being able to do it well and consistent. But when we don't identify our why when it comes to our physical health, we're always going to ignore our spiritual health in the process of being physically healthy, right?
Yeah, man, because when things get tough, you're going to quit.
Yep.
But if you know why you're doing it, and you got that intrinsic motivation, like that's the first chapter of our book in our Habits of Health.
Hey.
It's why are you here?
That's it.
And it tells you what intrinsic motivation is, your why.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you here? Why do you want to lose 20 pounds?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, man.
Is it going to give you the energy and the confidence to play with your kids?
Yep.
Is it going to make it where you can actually bend over and tie your shoes? Well, why is that important to you?
And I think the thing,
because when you tie your shoes, you're going to do what? You're going to walk, you're going to go to work, you're going to play with your kids. Well, now, why is that important to you? So it's not just why you want to lose 20 pounds. You go a couple levels deep on that why. And that's when the days get hard, you can still make the decision to get up and do something.
Yeah. And I think on the spiritual side, it's just as important. If you can understand why the Lord spent the time, and maybe you don't understand some of this fully until you see him, right? But some of it I feel like you understand as you live a little bit longer. You can understand why the Lord chose to plant you in creation itself right now, right? What he's called you to do. Then, hey, it's going to be of vital importance that you do it well. And the only way you can do it well is to be healthy, you know? And anybody,
and that's where God planted me. I'm so passionate about it, Rashad. Like, I know I've been passionate about it since 2005, and it's taken me my journey to get to a place where I'm closer to Jesus. That I know my why, and it's to serve people.
That's it.
And we've been talking about this whole time why it's important to get healthy, and that's what I get to do every day. And I give it all to God, and I thank him. I prayed for this years ago, and I'm just thankful that the door was open, and only people win because I followed what Jesus was pointing me to do.
You gotta say that thing again. That's a click right there. That's a trailer. But nah, man, Chad, this has been good, big bro. Just do me a favor too while we're on here. If folks want to find you, where can they find you? because I want to make sure we add it in the show notes, but also add it on the pod before we get ready to head out.
Yeah, so Facebook and Instagram, you can just look up Coach Chad 1778, and that's my username on both Facebook and Instagram, and you can find me on there and give me a follow. I share a lot of healthy recipes, motivation, my dad life, married life, a lot of testimonies from clients with their before and afters and their testimony on what health has done for them. And it's just, I like to live it out loud, man, and just show people what's possible when, you see someone else doing it. It sparks a little bit of fire in you, and you want to get closer to that fire. You want to be warm, and it just motivates you to think to yourself, maybe I can do this. You can, but you got to believe it.
That's it. Love it, man. And if you guys want to continue listening to podcast episodes like this one, where we're talking about faith and fitness and the interlines between, you can find us on Preacher Man S on Instagram. We have a Facebook page called Real God for Real People as well. And we have a Gmail called Real God, 4 Real People as well. And so been loving this time, Chad. Been grateful for the conversation, and we will see you guys next week.
Well, thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, man. And you can also find our podcast on most major music platforms or podcast platforms like iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Apple Music. Y'all have a blessed one, and I can't wait to jump back into this next week. Talk to you soon.